Hello again, and welcome to another exciting episode of Social Studies. Today we are going to talk about the Louisiana Purchase. All right, so this is on sheet number 3, pink sheet number 3. This is what the front of it looks like, and we're going to skip down to the, is it on the top? Yeah, the top of the back of page 3, where it says the Louisiana Purchase. All right, so basically in 1800, this is approximately what the country looks like around. So Jefferson is president now, third president, and you can see the country has expanded westward some. I mean, people are starting to move to the west. We have two new western states, Kentucky and Tennessee, and people are starting to settle into the Northwest Territory as well. We have some new states up here, Vermont and Vermont, I guess one. Anyways, so the country is growing and expanding. Now, note that all of this gray area is claimed by Spain or France or Spain and France. Now, you might think, whoa, wait a second. Did not France give up its claim after the French and Indian War? And they did. They gave it up, and this all became Spanish territory. Although right around 1800, I'm not sure the exact year, and it doesn't matter, Spain and France made a little secret deal, and because France owed Spain some money and they were trying to settle some differences, Spain gave all this land to France. All right, so let's take a look at where we are. On the map of the United States here, these are the Appalachian Mountains, these are the Rocky Mountains. This area is going to be what becomes known as the Louisiana Territory or the Louisiana Purchase. These two blue things are rivers. This is the Ohio River, and this is the Mississippi River. All right, there you go. Shows you what we're at. Now, by the early 1800s, people are starting. Oh, and here's Canandaigua, where the little star is. People are starting to settle west of the Appalachian Mountains. And the thing is, back then, there are no roads. Once you get to the Appalachian Mountains, we are roadless. No roads, no railroads, no way to travel or transport things. Even horse and buggy or carriages or wagons don't do you any good because it's all wilderness. There's the only real way to travel is by river. A river, you can travel by boat, and sure, you might get caught in rapids or go over some falls once in a while. But for the most part, you're not going to get lost on a river unless you go down the wrong river. The path is cleared for you, and you can carry loads and stuff. So rivers are the transportation, the best method of transportation during the early 1800s. And you can see all of these blue things here are rivers. Let me back up for 1 second. So we're going to talk first about this area in red because this is where people are starting to settle. Now, there's no roads here, but there are rivers. Now, the thing is, though, all of these rivers flow into either the Mississippi River or the Ohio River, which then flows into the Mississippi River. So the Mississippi River is pretty important. And down here at the bottom of the Mississippi River, where it hits the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic Ocean, this is called the city of New Orleans. New Orleans, very, very, very important city for trade. Now, when the Spanish owned this territory, we signed a treaty with them. Oh, I should mention, the United States territory at the time stopped on the eastern banks of the Mississippi River. It did not include the Mississippi River. So in order to make sure we could use the Mississippi River, we signed a treaty called Pinckney's Treaty with Spain, and that allowed us to use the Mississippi River and the port of New Orleans. However, once Spain turns this land over to France, all bets are off. And we're worried if we can't use these rivers, if we can't use the Mississippi, all of these rivers are useless, and all of this land is useless because farmers are never going to be able to get their crops to markets. People aren't going to be able to travel or trade. So this river is really crucial. All right, and this Mississippi River. So what's going to end up happening here? I want to make sure we're filling in some notes as we go along. So basically, at the start of the 1800s, more Americans were moving west. At that time, the west equals the land between the Appalachian Mountains and the Mississippi River. So that's what you're filling in first. Appalachian Mountains and Mississippi River. The Mississippi River was important for trade, travel, and transportation. Trade, travel, and transportation. You can pause here if you need to fill those in, but I'm going to go on. Okay, yeah, now I'm going to go on. All right, so what ends up happening is Thomas Jefferson sends an ambassador over to, when he finds out that France has bought this territory, he sends an ambassador over to France to see if we could buy New Orleans, the city of New Orleans, at least, and maybe the Mississippi River if we could, or at least rent the Mississippi River, get the use of the Mississippi River and the port of New Orleans. Now, at this time, the French Revolution has kind of come to an end with the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, who has declared himself emperor and supreme ruler of France, and his goal is to take over the world. So here you see him being crowned emperor. Supposedly he takes the crown and crowns himself. I don't know if that part's true or not, but you can see France starts becoming a military powerhouse, and this empire of France at its peak is going to control, they're going to take over Spain, they're going to control Italy, they're going to control almost all of Europe, everything outlined here in pink. Not really super important. That's by 1812. They will control all of that. So Napoleon's on his way to doing this. He's not there yet, but that's his sort of goal. He also has a plan to build an empire in North America. It's based in New Orleans. So this is going to be his headquarters for this North American empire. Now, the problem is he sends over, once they buy this territory, he had sent over an army to sort of occupy it and protect it. However, on the way, they find out that there's a slave revolt, an uprising by enslaved people in their colony of Haiti. This is a French colony down here, Haiti. And the army makes a stop here in Haiti to end this rebellion and get things under control. But the army is defeated by a guy named Toussaint Louverture, who is a famous Haitian military leader. He was an enslaved person who managed to escape and lead this uprising. And he, although he does have some help from yellow fever, which kills a lot of the French army, he ends up becoming winning Haitian independence from France. And when that happens, Napoleon decides, this isn't such a good idea. After all, I need to focus on Europe. So he decides he's gonna go ahead and just kind of abandon this Louisiana territory. Now, Thomas Jefferson doesn't know that. The ambassador doesn't know that. So they go over there and they're offering to buy this city of New Orleans and the Mississippi River. And they are surprised when the French say, hey, you know what? Give us $15 million and we will throw in all of the Louisiana territory, all of this. It's going to double the size of the United States if they do this. Now, the only concern that Jefferson has is, as you know, Thomas Jefferson believed in a strict construction of the Constitution in a smaller, less powerful federal government. And buying all this land is not technically in the Constitution. And Jefferson, he has to decide, is he going to stick to his beliefs or is he going to do what's best for this country, the United States? So he thinks about it for a while and he decides, you know what? I have the power to sign treaties, and this is basically just a treaty. So, yes, we will do it. One of his reasons is, remember, he wants us to be a nation of farms, a rural agricultural country, and that's going to require a lot of land. So this is going to double the size of the U.S. So he thinks it's a great thing. All right, for these notes, hopefully you could figure out from this sheet. If you have to pause it, you can, but this is going to fill in the notes. And as well, to continue, that was A and B, and now C and D are going to be here. A and B are small because you've already filled those in probably. C and D here, it was important because it doubled the size of the U.S., gave the U.S. control of the Mississippi River, and also eliminated competition for land. France and Spain are both kind of out of the picture now. Not Spain completely, but we'll deal with that later. And it provides lots of natural resources. Now, it is interesting to note that in all of this buying and selling and trading this land, nobody considered the wishes of the people who actually lived there, the American Indians. There were hundreds of thousands of Native Americans living on this land, and their homelands are being bought and sold right out from under them, and they're probably not even necessarily aware of it when it's happening, but they will deal with the consequences in years to come. All right, just a reminder, that's all we have for now. We'll talk about Lewis and Clark later, but remember that you have this blue sheet. It doesn't look very blue here, but it is, and your creative notes to finish. So have fun doing those things, and I will see you soon. Now stop.